You're listening to Zen and the Art of Endurance, your podcast for getting great at going long.
Hey there, all you endurance freaks and geeks, and welcome to another episode of Zen and the Art of Endurance, the podcast where we go long and learn a lot about ourselves along the way. Leaving the pool, 3,500 yards plus, mostly like 600 freestyle, easy, and then 100 butterfly, working on form and technique. And such a great way to start a beautiful Wednesday. And you may be saying, Coach Brett, get to the point of the title of the show. And that's a little bit of it right there. Is it clickbait? Did you really bike to Epstein Island? And no, it's not clickbait in the way that you think it is. And bear with me here while I finish loading swim stuff. Boy, I'm dragging this out, aren't I? Into the back of my Texas truck. You cannot bike to Epstein Island. It's a physical impossibility. But the title of the show is more of a Zen lesson. We're going right into Zen pointers and Zen insights. I'm not here really to give you Zen lessons, but Zen insight into the mind wanting to know things that it cannot know. And then when you finally realize that you can't know and you're faced with basically yourself, then what? So yeah, after the intro of the show, if you want to fast forward quite a bit, because we go a little bit more into this Zen lesson that I've already recorded when I was driving to the pool, then, and also the history of the show and some other examples, I do take you on a very long bike ride in insane heat, which really pushed me to the edge of what I knew and had to take breaks. And you're finding yourself out there, and then what? What happens when you have to stop and recalibrate yourself several times because it is hot? So what's really cool is the audio that you're about to listen to of this really long bike ride actually comes from the video that's up on YouTube. So everything that you hear, you can actually go check it out on YouTube on Zen and the Art of Endurance with Coach Brett. And let's make a cold beverage here. Got a nice cold Diet Coke. I'm gonna pour over ice. I think maybe I should have left my tailgate down. Yeah, let's drop this tailgate down, my little Texas workbench. And then, maybe I do go to Epstein Island. Maybe it's on the other side of the Navasota River. I guess you'll have to listen to find out. I got your mind going again, didn't I? So the thing to think about is why this makes such a good lesson on Zen and not being attached is the list will probably never get released because there's too many important people on both sides. And people are really worked up over wanting to know, and they work really hard on saying, when we get in power, we're going to reveal the names on the list. And then they get in power and they go, oh crap, we can't reveal the names on the list. Right? And don't let yourself get too wrapped up in this stuff. Politics goes back and forth. Oh, that cold drink is good. And when you finally realize, even if you did get to the bottom of it, well, then what? Are you really sure? And what are you better off doing? Probably going for a bike ride and working on yourself and possibly learning to identify when things are unsolvable. Let me throw on my shirt here. To use some critical thinking skills and say, well, this is unsolvable. Let's just move on. And then you can actually get more real things done in life that are important to you and not be dragged around by your nose, getting all worked up about stuff that you really can't figure out or solve entirely. So Zen is full of these things. What is the sound of one hand clapping? If a tree fell in the woods and no one heard it, or no one was around, did it make a sound? And what was your face before you were born? Some real weird stuff. Can a dog have Buddha nature? And we all know that's definitely true. Dogs are the best Buddhas. The answer to that one was at first, that's a classic, one of the earliest Zen questions the student asked. And then the master said no. Well, he said it's unknowable, actually. Mu is like null, it can't be known. And then a little while later, he asked him again, and he said yes. And then a little while later, he said no. And it's just like, there's a little bit of that, what's the answer that the person needs to hear, right now, to move along with their life? I gotta get around a construction zone. And it is really true. Once you spot these things that are unknowable, at least for now, maybe they will find everything out, but definitely not right now. And don't let it take up your brain cycles. Oh crap, I got a hell of a detour right here. But my truck has a map on board. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I guess I'm gonna have to, whoa, this is messed up. So yeah, I'll talk about that more in the rest of the show, and how I used that kind of stuff to help solve some of my own issues that I was dealing with in harder parts of my life. And that'll be coming up right next. And then the bike audio, you are so free and welcome to skip all that and go straight to the biking. Like I said, it'll probably be about 30 minutes in. And now I'm dealing with the Zen of just when I was early leaving the pool and getting to work. I have the biggest detour I think I've ever had to do in my entire life to get to work, which is now going to mess it all up. So, oh well, here we go. Just when you get things figured out, life goes, oh yeah, how about this? Bam. So let's mix in a little bit of swimming and let's see, and logistics of how this show was recorded on YouTube at the same time. I guess we'll do the YouTube thing because that's kind of cool. I shot the whole video on Insta360, and then what happens is I can actually pull the video into the audio editing software. And I want to do more of this, and then the audio editing software just takes the audio and we can put it all into a show, and then you get two shows in one. You can just listen to the audio version and let your imagination deal with it, and I kind of like that. And then because your imagination's always better than reality, honestly. It's the whole Hitchcock thing, M. Night Shyamalan too, but you're like, oh, I want to see what that part was actually like. Then, what was it? Oh yeah, I see a king snake on the ride. A speckled king snake. You may want to see what that looks like, You go over there and check that out. When I get down to the Brazos River, or Navasota River, when I get chased by a dog, this real gnarly part of the ride, you can go check all that out. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to do more of that. And figuring out how to get that done is something I'm gonna have to learn how to do. And also the swimming. Okay, mixing in butterfly. Here's your swimming tip of the podcast. I've come to the recent conclusion for now that mixing in butterfly is just brilliant for swim training, for long distance stuff, because butterfly is so hard by its own nature, but it is basically freestyle. So if you mix in some butterfly, you're basically getting in your freestyle intervals that'll make you a much better freestyler, and that's the stroke you're going to end up using while racing. Yeah, I got the middle finger from somebody. Well, I put on my blinker and the lane's open, and then you speed up. Well, you're going to end up with me in your lane, because I'm obeying the blinker laws. See how a nice Zen swim can make you feel really relaxed. And let's see, I've been doing this maybe a month, maybe a little bit longer. Feels like longer than a month. And the butterfly gets easier and easier. And I used to do butterfly a lot. So it's kind of like relearning to do butterfly. It's kind of like stripping away everything and relearning how to do something right after you've been piled on with all these expectations of how to do something. When you actually start trying to do it, you learn if you slow down and relax. Butterfly, you eventually, to do longer distance butterfly, you eventually learn to slow down, go easier, and it's more about flexibility in your shoulders, which takes a little bit of time. And then the pulls aren't really that much harder. They're barely any harder at all. And then you have these long pauses in between to kind of recover as you glide and then do a kick and then another pull. And yeah, you learn that the actual technique is to clear your shoulders and your arms out of the water, which is more of a flexibility thing and a timing of the kick. And with that, then your arms land in front of you in a nice streamlined fashion, and you cover more distance, and then you can kind of glide and then gradually start to take another pull. And you don't have to pull as hard because your flexibility is now better in your shoulders because you've worked on it over time. You've been patient and realized that this is a skill that takes, just time in the saddle, and then your arms clear the water again, and then you glide and do a kick, and the pull ends up not having to be anywhere near as hard as what it used to be. And it's kind of like riding a bike, where at first you're over. I remember when I learned to ride a motorcycle as an adult, I was so tired in my arms and shoulders the first couple weeks. And somebody pointed out to me, they go, yeah, you're scared because you're motorcycling for the first time. And you are over controlling the handlebars. You're holding on to them too tight. And you're kind of freaked out. And then after a while, you learn to kind of settle in and relax and learn that you actually steer the bike more with your hips and your body weight. And then the bike turns itself by just you kind of leaning and these gentle little pushes kind of here and there. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And the same kind of thing happens with butterfly. If you just commit and say, I'm just going to learn to do it nice and slow, and learn to do it slowly, and learn to clear my shoulders and just be patient with getting the flexibility of my shoulders out of the water, then yeah, it all ends up being a whole lot easier. But then what's super cool is you've spent an hour swim like I did to do the butterfly, you got to go really easy on the freestyle. And there's your easy right there. Isn't that nice? And then when you do the butterfly by its own nature is pretty hard. And then you've done your set of hard. And then I take a 45 second to a minute break. And then I just repeat it over again. All right, that's enough of the swimming. I definitely suggest you check it out. Start to try to mix in some butterfly. Be patient with yourself. And let's go ahead and get into this recording. Earlier this morning, I was on my way to the pool thinking about the whole Epstein thing and the history behind the show, and also making great things. And don't forget that if you want to support the show, we have a Patreon, we have a PayPal. I should put the links to those somewhere at the YouTube video or the podcast. Or if, you want to sponsor a show or send some equipment to test out, you can email me at Texafornia, like Texas and California, texafornia@gmail.com. And also I do coaching, and I do full long distance endurance coaching with Training Peaks. And I teach you to train the Zen way and mix in intervals with, oh my God, that dude on an e-bike is freaking hauling ass. Wow, that was impressive. And anyway, I teach you how to train long distance the right way, and also really get more out of it than just one and done, and become a better person, like we say, along the way. All right, here's me driving to the pool this morning, and then after that, let's go on a long bike ride in the insufferable Texas heat, which I thought was going to get easier because it was supposed to be rainy and cloudy at the very end, and it did not. It just got worse and worse and worse. And yeah, let's let's check that out. All right, here we go. All right, on the way to the pool, recording on the Black Mamba. All right, the amount of stuff it takes because of 3 sports is such freaking mental gymnastics to not forget something. It's 6 trips out to the car, of clothes and food. Oh, it's 5:37 a.m. I've been up since 4:30ish. Snooze till 4:40, and been overthinking a lot about how to solve the puzzle of video versus audio. And lately it's been, I'm on my way. Yeah, I already said that. On my way to the pool. I need to shave. I need to get a haircut. Oh crap, I don't have a work shirt. I have spare work shirts at work, actually. So I just solved that problem. I have luckily I have my own office, which is becoming more and more rare these days at my job. And I've kept behind the door on the coat, I put a coat rack and a hanger hook, and put down several shirts. I'll leave some of them up there. And offices work casual, and we're supposed to wear collared shirts, and we can wear blue jeans Monday through Thursday, and then can wear a t-shirt even with some kind of slogan or logo on it, as long as it's not like alcohol related or something like that, on Fridays. And yeah, so things that have crossed my mind. So I've kept some work shirts up there for meetings, like some really nice shirts. And then I think I've got one up there that's just like a kind of casual shirt with a collar on it, like a polo shirt. And yeah, thoughts on tips and tricks on how to get stuff done with swimming and working out is have extra clothes at work just in case you forget your ass. Thoughts on topics. I thought it would be fun. It is my own creative project, Zen in the art of endurance, Zen in the art of the triathlon. I can do what the hell I want, which is kind of fun. It gives you a sense of control in your life when your life is completely not in your control, and that leads to happiness, the illusion of control. And I thought years ago, Kai was young, and I was making some pretty good side cash on Zen in the art of triathlon, with show donors and sponsors and all this stuff. And I was really hot on the idea. I was very close to giving up my job to go do it full time, but with a kid that needed, and my wife needs health insurance. My job is really stable and pays pretty good and pretty much requires a master's degree to get. I'm like throwing away all that for something that may or may not work out, in the long run, because all it takes is like an injury. It's almost like being a professional athlete. If you're a podcaster that is about doing a sport, right? So your livelihood depends on you being able to do that sport. So I could get into an injury riding my bike, and my job will accommodate me, my regular job. They have to by law. But if I end up in a wheelchair, like I did as a little kid when I got run over by a car. So these things do happen. The whole podcast thing is pretty much over as far as that goes. I'd have to figure out something else. And then I've lost everything, quote unquote. But I've lost health insurance and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, my point being that, I almost quit to do this full time because it is pretty awesome. It's and always, like I mentioned, I sidelined this stuff because I was going for a promotion at work that never happened, and I just toned down all the Zen Tri stuff And then also it was a perfect storm. Also at the same time, they asked me to be a Boy Scout troop, Scoutmaster, and Kai's mountain bike race team asked me to be a mountain bike coach. So you put all that together, there just wasn't time to do podcasts. And so the podcast kind of fell by the side. And then after all that ended, then I was like, oh, let's kick up the podcast again, which was actually really hard work to get everything fired back up again. And I was like, especially like if you don't get a promotion, you're like, well, then what do I do now? And then you got to rediscover yourself, and figure out what was it that I really loved. And it was so awesome. Emily was the best. She's like, you need to go for a really long bike ride. And I hadn't been on a really long bike ride in a while because I'd been sacrificing all my time to be on point on show appearances for this promotion that I never even got. And then when I did that long bike ride, I was like, man, this is what I really wanted to do anyway. The bike ride was just amazing. I'll never forget it. It was a 3-hour bike ride, gravel bike ride. And I was like, this is the best. This is the best. This is really what life is about, is doing good at your job so that you can have time to do the things that you love, right? Hey, people get really lucky. The problem is if you do something that you love for money, then all of a sudden it becomes a job. So it's a paradox in itself. So you don't, like I told Kai, he's working at a bike shop, he loves bikes, and I said, watch the bike shop manager and the bike shop owner about how much they actually don't really care about bikes anymore. A lot of them. It's exhausting, and like my love in high school and college and a little bit out of college was computers. And then when I got to working on them all the time, it's kind of like, oh man, they just keep advancing and what do you do? And it doesn't become, the advancing doesn't become fun anymore. It becomes work, because now you got to upgrade all these systems to keep up with the advancing. And then you're kind of like, dude, we all just slow the F down with all these updates and changes and stuff, because it's hard now to keep up with it. I can imagine the same thing with a pro triathlete or pro cyclist. You get really good, and then the next generation comes along and they're even better than you, and they hadn't even gotten halfway started yet. And it's because they were trained and raised better, more specifically for the sport, with better technology from a younger age. And they got to jump on you, and then you're like, oh, now this bike racing has now become work, which I always talk about. Lachlan Morton is where he's somewhat figured it out. He did say he got really depressed, I think, from just trying to do too much. But anyway, the thing I wanted to get to was when Kai was younger. That was a long roundabout, wasn't it? When Kai was younger, Trump posted Kofifi one time out of nowhere, right? With no context, just Kofifi. And I told Kai, I just listened to a podcast about this lady that was making millions, making t-shirts. And she was like, well, I just make t-shirts based on, whatever's the latest zeitgeist, which is like the latest culturally fervent thing going on. I think that's the word. And I showed Kai, I said, look, we can go on to one of these t-shirt drop ship make something websites and make a t-shirt. Instead of got milk, make it say got Kofifi. It's that easy. And then you can put up for sale, and as long as you're one of the early people doing it, then you'll make some money. And what the lady said that was really interesting was, they're like, how do you know what to be early on, or how many times can you do this? And she's like, oh, it's easy. This stuff's happening constantly in culture. There is, in the news, there's something, right? Always something. And if you do like a little play on it, and then after a while that tapers off, something else will happen. And then like alligator Alcatraz, but the one that I thought, especially with Trump in office, because he's so random and like just says the craziest stuff, it's never ending, actually. It's exhausting. And I thought I could make a video and title it Biking to Epstein's Island, and then just go on a bike ride, but the point is you're not going to bike to, I mean, just reading the title, you can't bike to Epstein's Island. It's a freaking island, but then tongue-in-cheek, people that know, because this is art, know that it's impossible. And then the Zen of it is like, it made you think. And then at some point during the thing, I would say, yeah, we're not really biking to Epstein's Island. You can't. And the point is that Epstein's Island, and the controversy over that lately in the news, is that both sides of the political spectrum have people that are guilty of going to this island. And what they do is when one side's not in power, they bang on the table, release the list. And then the people in power delay and like, no, well, maybe, or release part of it or nothing, or say that. And then when they get into power, because it always goes back and forth. The latest is, the funny one is, the people in power now got into power partially on saying that the whole point of getting into power was to release that list. But then when they get into power and then there's people on their side that are on that list, it comes from top down, don't release the list. And then, so you end up in this catch-22 of nobody can release the list. It'll probably never get released because there's too many powerful people on it, and it's complicated, and there's people that went to the island that had nothing to do with the sex stuff, apparently, is what I understand. And so people, there is a serious issue with like releasing a list, and people assume that everybody that went to the island like did sex stuff, but they didn't. There's apparently, I don't know what the ratio is, but let's say it's 50-50. 50% of the people were there just because somebody invited them, and they were like, they'd heard about, like, Epstein was really rich and famous, and they were like, oh, let's go there, you've been invited. And they get there and they're like, this is weird. Apparently that happened with Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. They landed, and Melinda goes, this is weird. Let's get the hell out of here. And I'm sure both sides, right, fell into this problem. And so you have a mix of people that definitely were doing stuff, and then bad stuff, and people that weren't. But if they're on the list, they all get lumped together. So it's crazy difficult to release this list without making some people look worse than what they were. And I'm not defending any of it. The people that did stuff definitely should go to jail. And there's people probably, I think, on both sides. So my point being is that no, the list is never going to be, it's like the JFK assassination. It's never, you're never going to get to the bottom of it fully. But what's funny is that both sides demand the other side releases the list when the one side is not in power. And when they get in power, they're like, oh crap, we really can't release this because there's people on it. Like 200 years from now, they'll be able to release it. So that's kind of where we're at with all this. My point being is that we don't do politics on this show, and on purpose, because it just goes, the Zen will teach you that it just goes back and forth. Power goes back and forth, different powers. You can't get too attached to, and you can see the people that are really miserable today are really wound up over their one side being right. And from their perspective, they are right, and the problem, is being like too attached to all of it. But back to the thing with, creating art and sense of control or whatever, is I thought it'd be funny, to release a video saying biking to Epstein's Island, and a little bit tongue in cheek to point out, you can't bike to Epstein's Island. No one's ever going to bike to Epstein's Island. And then what comes out of this when you realize there is no biking to Epstein's Island, and it just doesn't happen. And that's like a classic tradition in Zen, is people get presented with what they actually want, and then when they're given it and it turns out that there's nothing there, or in this case with Epstein's Island, there really is stuff there, but it's inaccessible. You'll never, what's the meaning of life? Well, the meaning of life's all around you, but try to define it. You can't. Or you could, but then all right, did you really? How do you really know? And then, what would be the outcome of like posting a video like that? But then with that story about the t-shirts is like, I could just make video after video after video of, I thought of another one that would be funny. I won't reveal it now because I want to save it and use it, not exactly as, clickbait, but because I would talk about it a little bit like I am right now, but also, but use it as like lessons. And then, because if you keep talking about the same Zen stuff over and over again, you need, like, I figured out that putting a little bit of flavor of the current news into it, like, helps teach the lesson a little bit, because then we can relate to it better. Talking about something that happened in the 800s, I'm sorry, or 500 BC, it's kind of hard to relate to it. And that's why it's always good to tell stories, along with your current life and what's going on today. And that's really all I had. And yeah, also I'm stuck between video and audio, and I'm trying to find the hybrid in between because it's very difficult to do both at the same time, as far as I know right now. So let's go swim, and I'll think about it while I'm swimming. How about that? Be right back. All right, we're getting ready to go for a 4-hour ride. I got the bike, got fuel, I've got extra water, got extra batteries. I'm wearing the Insta360 chest cam, got a Camelback water, I got the new shoes, and sunglasses, socks, and throw on the helmet, and I think we're ready to go. All right, I think we got everything connected. We're pushing heart rate from the watch and loaded up with 4 hours of fuel. Got the blinky light on, tires aired up, power meter pedals connected. On the most advanced, weirdest, oldest, newest, best, terriblest bike ever built. And I love it. I need to come up with a name for this bike. Old Blue. We love you, Blue. Let's go ahead and start. And it's going to rain right around the same time that we start wrapping up. So we want to make sure that we go ahead and get done, but I'm not too worried about the sun. I mean, it's going to be hot as hell. Not too worried about the heat. Whew. Got a little bit of a headwind. You can probably hear all that. And we cut through right here. Somebody mowing their yard. This is my little cut through I always make right here. And then the coolest thing about a gravel bike is this. And boom, merged out onto the street, and let's go. All right. Merging with big traffic. We're gonna go under that bridge right there. See what we can do. Whether I take the lane or not depends. Oh, we got a red light. And a motorcycle. So I'll probably end up taking that sidewalk off to the right there, and go under, because I got some cars behind me and stuff, and that's kind of narrow under there. So yeah, I'm filming because the last time this camera has been used was for Kai's mountain bike race months ago, and had to charge everything back up, find everything. He had a whole different strap system set up because it was mountain biking. He wanted to be more secure. And I'd really like to record again, both for shows and for, what's the other thing? Oh, if I do this gravel race that's coming up. And you have to get familiar again with all the battery life, how to use this stuff. We're going under. And I got a green light, and I'm gonna go straight right off the curb. With all these trailers like that. I'm gonna stay on the sidewalk for a second. Stay out of all that broken glass. We'll cut through this parking lot on our way to Lick Creek Park. Woo! I was against riding that for a few years because of the traffic, but it's actually not that bad, which is a good reason to explore stuff. Watch out, car. And yeah, we'll be back. All right, and we're only 7 minutes in. Go ahead, start fueling. This is probably 400 calories per hour, so it's a little bit overkill. Half table sugar, half maltodextrin with some Gatorade powder, the lemon lime, and sodium citrate. Bought in bulk. And pretty soon we'll be here on the trails. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but the headwind is really strong. So we're gonna spend the first half of the ride working our way out of town. That's where the aero bars are just so nice. Get nice and low, cruise along. And I am on a single speed. I got a 48 front, 18 rear, which is like really happy around, I'd say about 17 miles an hour. Probably like 80 RPM at 17, maybe 85. Have the Asioma power meter pedals. And mountain bike front tire, an old 2.4 that's worn down pretty good. 47 in the rear. The bike's a 30-something-year-old Nishiki. And let's drink some water. I finished this off first. And then we'll drop into the park. All right, here's where we go. Let's drop in. Gotta watch around this blind corner. One time I got hit with an e-bike that was going uphill around a blind corner. Now that e-bikes are a thing, the guy put his head down and struck me right in the chest. And he cracked a rib or separated the rib. It's always hard to tell. Unclip so I can go fast. Put a leg out like a kickstand. So now we're in Lick Creek Park. It's been raining a bunch. And this is a park that's in, obviously, a lowland. Funny name, Lick Creek. I'm used to it now. I've lived here so long. And yeah, we got a late start today, so this place is going to be full of runners. I need to say, I'm not scared of this world to death. On your left. Yeah, so I'm interested in how long the batteries last for stuff. like this remote. I got a remote on my handlebars. So how long does that last if I leave it on the entire time? Coming up behind you. Hi. So something you can really notice if you run lower tire pressure, the rough, chunky stuff like I've been going through is morning. Definitely softer on the hands. You'll tell in this video, ooh, that's squeaky brake, that I've got a suspension fork, but it's really old. It's mostly worn out and locked up. But it does take the edge off the biggest hits, which is actually what you need in gravel. That's not the worst. I found myself saying that a lot. Just looking right, because this is rough. Rough and loose. Bad combination. Bounce you and then have you slide out. But I'll say, it's not the worst. A lot of cicadas, I guess. Yeah, being in the sun, it's really, really hot. Something that's cool is people think things have lost on this water. You can't ride aero bars on gravel. It's not worth it. But it so is. Like, this is some pretty rough stuff right here. It'll smooth out in just a second. There we go. And at this point, I'm riding right into that headwind again. So what I'm doing is I'm videoing, then I can transfer the video almost straight to audio in my podcast software. And then I talk about things as they come up. So the Zen gets mixed in as I think of it. And instead of just doing audio, there's pockets of sand so I get back. Oh, the sand's damp, so it's not the worst. Yeah, and things that I say early on, I'll end up saying again because they're on my mind. It's not the worst. And I forget. With ADHD, you get halfway through something, and then a little while later, you're like, oh yeah, that thing. I guess with a comparing mind, some Zen Buddhism is the worst thing is comparison. But one thing I never talk about is sometimes comparison can be the best thing. Because if you've been through worse before, you definitely push yourself to go a little bit further. Because you know you can. On your left. And then also remembering that other people are going through much, much worse than you. But the hardest thing I've ever done was the last few miles of a 100-miler trail run. And I compare everything to that pain. There was a snake. Did y'all see that? Let's see. Did he stay? He's right there. No, don't go away. That is a king snake, a speckled king snake, my friend taught me. Speckled king snake, I believe. King because they eat other snakes too. They are actually kept as pets. My friend Jeff had one. Let's zoom in. Non-venomous. Or that's a yellow-bellied racer. So we're gonna leave him alone. There's a guy coming. Let's get him off the trail a little bit so somebody doesn't stomp him. Okay, he'll think about that again. I barely noticed him. That was pretty cool. There's a snake up to the right past the bridge, but it's harmless. It's a non-venomous, and it's just going off the trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glad to know that.
Yeah, in case your dog sees it. There you go. That was cool. And that's how it's done. Maybe. Well, I was videoing on top of videoing right there. Let's get some more water in. This is going to be a hot one. Cruising through the park on my 6th floor. Trying to figure out the path to the water fountain here. And I narrate the video because it ends up being on audio, and it helps the audio sound better. Yeah, but I didn't have a real special topic for this. There it is. For this ride. They kind of appear as I ride. What I do is I top off the water. I added extra sodium to this in anticipation that I was going to top this off. You think that amount of water doesn't matter, but it does. Okay. Whew. Yeah, so I guess my way of saying the comparing mind and whatever, it's not the worst thing. Because now, at my age, I've experienced a lot. Okay, let's take a right and go down to the Navasota River and such. Down this road, getting the arrow bars. Let's go. Here's our first little tree tunnel. Really nice. It's very cool down in here. But we're about to get back up into the heat. That's our wind right there. Up here. And we are officially in the ranch land. Just 25 minutes in. Look at that. It's nice. All right. Old Barker Ranch Road. It's a little damp. So the upside of recording with the camera is the microphone, if I do it chest mounted, is already in the right place. It picks up sound really well. Although I haven't used this in a long time, So we'll find out. But we saw a snake early on. Yeah, so I film these videos to share the world of endurance sports with other people. And how it can improve your life and what's actually out there. If you go swim, bike, and run, or whatever individual one you want to do. It really depends on where you live, on what you can do. I lived in San Diego for a couple of years before I started doing triathlon. Standing climb up this hill. And I was surfing in the morning and mountain biking in the afternoon. And I probably can promise you that that's what I would still be doing 20 years later. Because that's what that town is for. It is awesome. But moved back here, and it's a 2.5 hour drive to go surf. And there's really nothing else. We're 2 hours east of Austin with all the cool terrain. We're an hour west of the National Forest. And me being super outdoorsy, I just wanted to get out there and do stuff. And I was at the swimming pool swimming to stay in shape for surfing because I couldn't surf very often. And you need to swim on occasion or surf a lot, or else the next time you go, you are going to suck. And there was a triathlon team training, and me being a former swimmer, they were like, whoa! Because triathlon's full of runners and cyclists, and people that are out and out swimmers are kind of like, that know how to swim fast already, are like it's like having a left-footed soccer forward, left forward, you know. They're like, oh, we could use you on the team. I was like, okay, no way. And they're like, oh, come on. I go, what time do you get up and practice? They go, we get here at 5:30. And I'm like, no way, I'm done with that. I haven't done that in years. But then the next morning I found myself there. And then I remember one thing that really turned me on was I was riding my old high school road bike. I had a Schwinn Tour. And it was already old at that point. It had a bent frame. It had a bent top too because I drove it into a parking garage by accident. And on the top of my car. And but anyway, we're out on a long ride, probably about a 3-hour ride, and it snowed on us out there, here in Texas. And it was just so wild, and I was like, dude, this is adventure. Holy crap. And up until then, in my town, I just like figured there wasn't anything to do. That was fun. All right, let's get to the top of this hill, and we'll film going down to the Navasota River like I've promised 6 times. All right, dropping down in. There's no sign saying water over the road, so we might make it all the way down. I've been having problems with the fit on this bike. My upper back and my back of my neck hurting. And my suspicion is that the the aero bars are too low too slammed. And I'll show y'all in a second. I also had the front of the bars up a lot, which puts the back end of the bars where my elbows are down a lot more, because they counter on the handlebar like that. And so I pushed the front down, which brought the elbow pads up, which effectively puts my whole torso up a little bit. And we've been testing this out a couple rides. This might be the first long ride where I really test it out. Let's see what we got here. Step where there's grass. And let's go check out the river. Yeah. So this river is not connected to the rivers in the hill country. I looked on a map and followed all the little miniature tributaries and everything to see if the Navasota River does that, and it does not. The Brazos River has one tributary that comes from, I'm pointing that way, it comes from the hill country, like the Guadalupe that's all in the news. And the San Gabriel River eventually dumps into what's called the Little River, which is really the Little Brazos River, and then that feeds into the Brazos River, which is over there. But this more comes from like the Dallas area, the Trinity River, that kind of stuff. So I don't see any snakes or anything. Nothing interesting, but we've already seen a snake. Look at us go. All right, let's hop back on and get going. And yeah, this is the device I'm using for single speed right here, because I don't have a sliding dropout. So I got to have a chain tensioner right there. And that's your 48 and then your 18. And I've actually kind of grown into it, and I'm ready to go up a notch. But then also, if I do the Texas hill country race, that's 300 miles, it's going to be actually super hilly, and I would want to actually gear down. So I just really haven't thought it all the way through yet. Oh, look at that. The lens fogged up. Y'all can't see anything. Maybe when we get moving, y'all see something. But, yeah, because I was going to point out something. Let's hop on. We got a whole bunch of mud right here. And my shoes are brand new. Something funny, when you get a pickup truck, you're like really protective of it, like with any new car. And then after a few years, when it gets its first dent, it's like this feeling of relief. Instead of like, I mean, for me, instead of being like upset, you know, it's like, oh, I can now finally treat it like a truck and really work it. It's pretty funny. So let's see if we can get some of this. The humidity's nuts, isn't it? Is it clearing up? There we go. So y'all can't really tell. It might be blocked. This is not the best place to take my hand off the handlebar. But, so I've got a remote for the camera. And it's on my bars. The regular, and I'm riding flat bar, which I'll talk about here in a second. It just, by the way, this is so cool being able to ride this. I rode for 15 years on a tri-bike and was never able to come down here because I was riding on 25 millimeter width, you know, road tire. And you just don't know what you're going to get into when you go off-road. Yeah, so down here,
at the aero bar pads. Right under here is the remote. And I was thinking, oh, I could move the remote up here. And the remote's really cool. It allows you to see what the camera's recording. And then of course you can remotely, know if you're recording and stop and start with the press of a button, which makes for way better file management. So I thought, oh, I'll move it out here where I can actually see it a little bit better. But then I realized, wait, this is where I put all my numbers when I do a race. Of like, let's see, at mile 10, this one right here is a hard right, don't go left. Mile 22, go left. Because when you do a race, a lot of times there's other courses within the same race. If I put the mount up here for the remote, I won't have as much room to write that kind of stuff. And it helps a lot. And then I guess I'll leave it on for motivation. It reminds me I'm a racer, so it helps me stay motivated with the right mindset. And then the next race that comes along, this is just painter's tape. Let's pull it off into a different set of numbers. All right, taking a ride on Lone Star Road. Whew. That was strong headwind. This feels nice. Let me turn off my Zen podcast I was listening to. English Buddhist monk, my new favorite thing to listen to. Guy lives in Sri Lanka and has just, I don't know how many hours and hours of just answering questions and talking about what it's like. Very calming. Nice stuff to listen to. Remind you how to be a good person. So I'm almost an hour in. And yeah, thinking about this race, and plus all the racing experience, when it's this hot, you got to remind yourself to even start off slow. Even when it feels cooler in the morning, you're going to need all that hydration and stuff towards the end. And to have not worn yourself out. If this road kept going straight, it would end up pretty much hitting the old Texas World Speedway, which has now been torn down. Things come and go. And this also might be my first ride with the insoles. Maybe I did ride with them last ride. Superfeet is a brand that makes really good insoles. And they come in different levels of seriousness for arch support. So I think I'm wearing the most serious ones to fill up the volume in my shoes. And I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. I like it a lot. Right hand turn. We're going to come up on some pine trees in a second. So this bike is running 175 cranks. They're really old. They might be the cranks off my old Schwinn Latour. So these could be from 1987, but they're Sagino. Really nice quality. They're alloy. And I'm really tall. I'm 6'3". So really, a lot of what people argue about with bikes, as far as geometry and fitting and length of things, wheel size, people keep forgetting that you're putting everybody of all different body sizes on standardized equipment, which does not do well. Just like little kids ride bikes with little wheels. You know? They're now talking about this new wheel size, maybe a 32 instead of a 29. Everybody's panicking, and it's like, no, that would be for like really tall people, like me. I look a little weird on a regular bike. Still look a little bit like a bear riding a beach ball around. And we're gonna do our turnaround right here. Oh, the heat is wild. What I'm trying to do is just film when we're off-road. Oh, here comes a car behind me. And I'm not sure if this part of the road is totally private. We might have a interaction with a local. But what I'll do is I'll pull over to the right and wave them through so I'm not holding them up. And then another thing, if you're riding single speed, longer crank arms give you more leverage. So if you got long legs and you're riding the single speed, it is quite possibly a smart move to have longer crank arms. I know gearing and all that stuff, I'm just saying. We're going into a headwind. Let's get low. Turn back and look. Oh, I guess that truck turned off. He was going from one pasture to another, I guess. Unless he's closing his gate. You gotta do that too. So yeah, I would totally ride a bike with 32s, I bet. The new wheel size they're coming out with. Because it would be fine on me. When 29ers came out, mountain bikes, I was like, oh, finally. There's a beehive place right in there. To the right. So this bike's also flat bar, which is really interesting. It just happened by coincidence. This bike's lived like 9 lives of different types of bikes. Commuter, race bike, drop bar gravel, mountain bike, like racing mountain bike, and then I'm trying to remember all the different things. But anyway, its latest iteration was an 8-speed flat bar that Kai was using as his campus commuter bike at Texas State. And then it had flat bars on it. So we took the flat bars off. Or no, when I decided to try to use this as a gravel bike because it holds bigger tires, I'm like, dude, this might be the perfect gravel bike. Because my current gravel bike will only go up to a 42 in the rear, and this will do like a 48. It might do a 50 if I straighten out the rear triangle a little bit. It's got a little bit of it's off by 1 millimeter. And for a long time though, for a few years, I've had this suspicion that flat bar with aero bars might be the ultimate gravel bike. So the opportunity presented itself because the way, for me to test it out, so because the way I ride is coming from an Ironman background, is I can live in the aero bars and I can ride pretty technical terrain in the aero bars. And it is way faster. And so if you're not in the aero bars, well, that's because it's technical. And if it's technical, flat bars would be better. So anyway, I got to get off the camera here. We'll come right back. All right, we're about to go under Highway 6. It's doing like 230 watts at 40 RPM. Hit to this headwind. Woo! Oh, it feels nice under here. And it's over. Now I got a long hill climb up. Be right back. All right, we are pulling into Milliken. This town used to be 40,000 people in the Civil War. Now it's only like 40 houses, so it's on a gravel grid where most of the stuff's gone, but the grid is still here, but it's gravel. It's the coolest thing. They ought to do a gravel circuit race here sometime, like a crit race, if the people would put up with it. All right, let's turn this off. What I'm going to do is cool off out here before I go in, dripping. And really can't do that under a gas pump. I don't want to block a pump. And then also check battery levels and see where we're at. And then we're going to go that way. All right, dropping down. I'm glad I checked the battery. It was almost dead, and I didn't want to miss this little part. We're going down to the gate that yells at you. I find wildly entertaining. And I have 3 batteries, and I went to put in one, and nothing happened. And then, so I might have a faulty battery. We'll wait and see. I get back and check it. And then the other battery was only charged up to 32%. So we're gonna have to be judicious in what we film. But I'm glad I've already overcome some anxiety, because I was like, I swear there's a way to turn off the camera, like power it off so it saves the battery entirely, and then with a one click of the remote I can kick it back on again. And I'm like, what is it? And then I finally figured it out, like what sequence of buttons and stuff. So I can turn off the camera entirely. Isn't this nice down in here? It just got sunny again, but the clouds are moving in. It's taking the edge off the heat a little bit. And I've already got in my mind what I want to film with the remaining battery. And then I also remember I can bring things in from my phone into my editing software if I have to. And it's funny, in Texas, you could be out in the middle of nowhere, some small little gas station, and there's still ranch and oil money. One of the cars in the parking lot of that little gas station, the 2 country guys talking out front, was a Maybach, which is an extremely high-end Mercedes. That's pretty cool. All right, I'll come back in just a second. All right, we're about to turn off 2154 onto Old Highway 6 and over the railroad tracks. Whew, did y'all catch Tool playing at the Ozzy Osbourne concert? Oh my God. They were so good. Okay, we're gonna turn right here on Wade Road. Or Ward, calling it Wade. I had the column on the out and back on this until I told Kai that I had the column on the out and back on this. I love this road. I wish it was way longer. It's amazing. It does go all the way through, but there's a ranch on it and they've gated it off. I mean, it goes on for miles and miles and miles, but we only get about a mile of it. But yeah, this is really good training for this race. If I do the Texas State, like the State of Texas Gravel Championships, it's 80 miles and it's going to be the middle of September, which is usually really effing hot here in Texas. That's a nice little downhill. So this is really good reminder, going easy. Because my training rides are usually 60 miles long, so it'll be 20 miles longer than that. Probably same, sorry, I had a hiccup. Same elevation gain. Kind of like this kind of stuff. Northwest of Waco, it's really pretty out there. I saw the worst hill was like a 9% grade maybe or something. So the gearing on this bike ought to work fine. I divide the distance by the elevation gain and come up with the average elevation gain per mile. And it's like 32 feet per mile. And that's what it is around here. So the gearing I use around here should work just fine. It's a really smart trick, if I say so myself. Oh. But yeah, try and remember to fuel and hydrate early. Take it slow. Because when it gets really hot and it gets kind of long, then whoever finishes first really didn't necessarily train the most. They're not the best cyclists. It's about hydration and heat management that allows you to use your training and not get shut down. There's a nice little U-turn. There we go. Yeah, so in the news, let's see, an 80-year-old guy finished the Badwater 135. I almost did the Badwater 135 as part of the Ultraman, Mega Man thing that a couple people actually did. Where you swam from Catalina Island. So I don't know how far it is to shore. Maybe it's 20 miles. I mean, it's epic. And then you bike to the Death Valley, over the California mountain range. And let's say that's 300 something mile, I don't know whatever it is. And then you run the Badwater 135 course. And I said, that's too much for me. I looked at it, definitely started thinking about it, and I was like, I don't like open water swimming in the ocean where there's sharks. I do it. I just don't want to be in it for 20 miles off the coast of Catalina Island, which is like a known shark breeding ground. People do it all the time, though. It's not that big of a deal. If you're new to the show, I've swum Alcatraz. I'm a surfer. I swam Lake Tahoe because it didn't have sharks. That was 22 miles. So I was capable of doing it. The first part of this race. So anyway, an 80-year-old guy, dude, and then there's the comparing mind where you're like, okay, if an 80-year-old guy can do it, this is where the comparing mind could actually help. If an 80-year-old guy can do it, then, you know, you could probably do it if you're 30, 40, 50, 60. You just gotta be careful and train and not go too hard. But then on the same note, I just saw that somebody died who was 60, had an Ironman or a half Ironman, I think. No, the trail run, Hard Rock, which is one of the hardest trail runs out there. He was 60, he died. I don't know if it was from a heart attack or not. All right, we're gonna turn back on the old Highway 6 and we're gonna save some battery life. Be right back. All right, we're cresting this hill and it's about to get crazy. What a great view. It's one of my favorite views. Brazos River Valley down there. I bet that river is running high. But we're gonna take that left turn, and I rode it for the first time last week. And wow. Well, for the first time in a few years. And I quit riding it because it was so hard. Well, no, because it was dangerous, because there was mean dogs in there, and I had Kai with me. So this is Lake Ridge Estates. It's a little bit hard to tell right here, but the road is really rough with potholes and big dips and stuff. And if it's been dry, then deep pockets of sand. We're on some kind of sandbank. That's the 100-year floodplain edge. And then we drop in and out of some of these creek channels. It's a pretty short little bit, but it was a little too much with the older bike, with the skinnier tires. But with this bike, it's actually really fun. Because it's not quite as hard as mountain biking. And this is not quite a mountain bike. So it's like a perfect match. Standing, climbing. So Lionel Sanders got injured. And he frustrates me so much. He tests me. Oh, it's rough. Because he changes what he does so much. And then what frustrates me more is he changes and then he speaks with such authority, and it's a personality type. Type A personalities act first, think later. I'm not being judgmental. We need both in society. Problem with them is people tend to vote them in as politicians. So you get a lot of bad decisions made fast. But people are like, oh, what a leader. He made this decision. People are more attracted to the decision than the making of the decision than what the decision is. And anyway, they speak with like really high authority on what they're doing. And they themselves are convinced, this is what to do. Yeah, look at this nice little grade right here. It's getting steep, nice little hill climb. And then having to be really, I'm gonna paperboy it, sort of. It's a little loose over here. Don't want the back to slip out. when you're single speeding. So he's got a fractured sacrum, which is like your lower pelvis, maybe where it attaches to your hip bone, I think. Your femur, actually. I thought about this would be a section where I could show the metrics on screen. I doubt I'll do it. I think I want to make training rides simple. And get them out, published out. And to add metrics, that's a lot of work. Hey, be nice. Be nice. Okay, I might have to spray him with water. Woo! Nice downhill. And I could go further down this road, but whoever lives at the end of this road has really kind of taken it over. It's a little much. And you know, people in the country don't really study their property lines. And they think they know their property rights and that you're not allowed down there. And you're like, no, this is a public road. No, I own the property on both sides, so I actually own the road. You're like, no, you don't. How do you know? I used to work for property management of the county out here. But the key is to just not get worked up about it. But anyway, so probably from overtraining, Lionel got himself injured. And so he'll change this and he'll change that. I mean, everything. And then be like, this is the right way. It's like, dude, here's a theory. Train 5% easier. Just 5%, maybe 10%. So that you can stick with something. And then you dial in that type of training. And improve and improve and improve. And then you're back to the top again. Just saying. I've met Lionel Sanders, shook hands with him at Ironman Texas when he was first starting out. Sprayed him with a little bit of water there. Very hard to do on rough ground. Now we got a technical descent with a turn, very loose, very bumpy. Oh, and I've got rim brakes, but very powerful rim. All right, I'm taking a break after that really hard section of Lake Ridge. Dog chased me and it's super hilly and I started to feel a little bit sick, I think from the heat. Which I think is a Van Halen song, something like that. Use my resting time wisely. Some fuel and water. And I think this is when I crashed with Gary right there. And I was wearing it on this shoe and there's holes in my old shoes on that side. It's pretty wild. We're gonna go past the Gary pothole and see. And we're now off the camera because the battery died. The chest cam, the Insta360. But what I do is I'll still wear it on my chest and not put it away. Because if you get into a traffic incident with somebody, altercation, and they start yelling at you, you can be like, look, I got a camera, you're on camera, and point at it. And it doesn't matter if it works or not. I used to work night shift at Stop and Go. And there was a camera, you know, behind the cashier. That was me. And we found out that the camera actually doesn't record. Back then, this is a long time ago, it wasn't recording. It's just a deterrent. So kind of like parking an empty cop car on the side of the road. People drive a whole lot slower. So I need to be careful because I'm sitting on the side of the road here. Let me move out of the road. Yeah, the camera, because it's filming in 360, just eats through batteries. Like, pretty bad. He's just turning right down there. And, yeah, I was spraying that dog with a water bottle, but I was also starting to go downhill on a really rough road, so riding with one hand made it dangerous to do that. So even if your dog's not going to bite, it's still a hazard if you have a dog that chases people. Just saying. Try to keep them from doing that. All right, yeah, so I was talking about Lionel Sanders. So he looks like he's out for 6 to 12 weeks or something. And yeah, if he just backed off his training a little bit, then he'd probably and be able to stick with something for a long time. Everybody's a big fan of Lionel Sanders because he's like the age grouper gone pro that has the talent if he would just stick with something. But then we all change constantly. I do it myself because you're always like trying to figure out how to optimize stuff. And that's, I think, why we can relate to him so bad. When we get mad at him, we're really mad at ourselves because we do the exact same thing. Oh, I'm going to try vegan. Oh, I'm going to try keto. I'm going to try all intervals all the time. I'm going to try no intervals and just do zone 2. I'm going to try coaching myself. I'm going to try getting coached by this guy. How about this? Maybe if I get coached by a woman, then I'll listen better, you know, or vice versa or something, you know. And it just goes on and on and on. So there was something else. Oh, with the race. Yeah. I think I'll remember what it is once we get back on the road out here. It's starting to get overcast off and on. But man, when the sun comes out, it sucks. All right. Yeah, I just needed to take a break here for a second. Then we're going to go back up the Bat Hill. All right. Be right back. Oh, and this is a fun experiment of mixing media. Because I kind of figured that out very recently that I could probably... Not everything for an Insta360 video has to be filmed on Insta360. It'll import iPhone videos. And then you can use those and mix them in as well. Oh, and I want to watch this snake video I made earlier. So I'll be right back while I'm cooling down. All right, we are on what they call feeder road. Access road. Doesn't have businesses on it yet. This is what they look like. Very common in Texas. And I got a tailwind, but I am cooking with heat. It's hard to just to sit here. So I wanted to film a little bit this way. The sun just came out. It was 95 degrees on the gravel with a headwind breeze blowing the heat away and grass on both sides. That is hot. So this is going to get really hot here too if that clouds don't start coming out again. Alright, now we're going to try filming vertically to see if it's a little easier on the hands instead of trying to twist the phone and hold it sideways. I was wondering where my legs... yeah, I'm riding one-handed, by the way, so we gotta be careful, especially with Gary's pothole up ahead. We get in the road, there's no cars. I was wondering where my legs felt so blown out, and the first thing you should do is ask yourself, what have I done differently? And I've been running very enjoyably on zero drop shoes all week. So that's ones where there's no hill, so it works your legs a little bit more. I'm loving it. I'm loving being like so much more engaged with the ground. So it's worth it. But then you're using your legs differently, slightly, and that wears you out. So I'm dealing with that. And then I think I managed to get in 3 swims and 2 runs and 2 bike rides already this week. Everything like an hour each. My watch gave me some kind of an alert of like, dude, you're doing more. And then I want to run tomorrow. And then next weekend we might be going to San Marcos to pick up some furniture. I got a downhill. Okay, so I'll get off the mic. Oh, this is pretty nice. You just never know. There's where a car burned down right there. You never know when it's going to be quiet. You can actually record. So the race only has regular category. It doesn't have single speed so far. They haven't added it. Some people might complain. You never know. And I'll be right back. Yeah, we're at 99.8, 99.9 degrees because this slope's pointing up towards the sun behind me. And no wind, so it's just cooking. 100.3. We got a nice downhill than Gary's pothole. All right, we're back. We're under Highway 6 in the shade. There was a breeze somewhere. I think it was over here. We're at a place where there's not much traffic that goes under this bridge. Here's the breeze. I just found it. Oh, it's nice. And it's going to be uphill with the wind and in the heat for another, not much, like 2.5, 3 miles maybe. So this is at the bottom of the hill. So I'm going to cool down before I hit that so that I'm nice and fresh when I climb it. Let the body core temperature come down. And yeah, this ride, like a lot of my summer rides in Texas, has become a heat training ride. And basically you go as slow as possible to still make forward progress. So if you're going downhill and you can coast, just coast. And try to let that cool you down with the breeze. And then if you're riding flat, you sit upright. If you're riding uphill, you sit upright to try to get the breeze over your body and just cool down. Yeah, contrary to what it looks like, I'm actually having a really good time. I love riding by myself. I'm gonna talk more about that in a second. And then in these hot days, since we've got now 2 gas stations, I mean out of nowhere, 2 gas stations where if I need to, I can grab a ice drink. I never used to carry money with me. I had no option. And then this bridge right here, and there was somewhere else where I can cool down. And I was listening to that British Buddhist lecture, one of his many. There's a dog howling in the background. And if you're a dog person, you don't mind it at all. You're like, oh yeah, I've dealt with that. And my bike's over there. The blinky light on it. You can see it. They said he answers questions. People email him questions and he answers it. He's out in the middle of nowhere, by the way. And one question was, what about sports? And he said, oh, you're not allowed to play sports. So my first reaction is like, oh, well then, yeah, this is not, this bike riding and stuff. Running and whatever. And Well, the actual question was, what about video games? And he said, you're not even allowed to do competitions. And because Buddha back in the day said people couldn't do like gladiator sports or whatever. So, and because you're really supposed to be focusing on yourself and not others, trying to be better than other people. And he said, but Buddhism actually was the founder of some martial arts that got turned into Kung Fu when it came to China to protect the Shaolin temple, where Bodhidharma was the first real Zen master he became in China from India. But martial arts is considered okay because you're doing it more for like exercise for yourself. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Because there is the whole thing with like the running monks and the stuff of like competing against yourself to learn about yourself. And then I think that's why I've done so well with myself with training. It's a nice breeze. The breeze coming. Why I like riding by myself instead of with others, and when I do races and Ironmans are really they're a competition against yourself, and you have to be careful, like no drafting and stuff. And then honestly, if you're not going to win and you're not going to even win your age group, you're really out there to see how much better you've improved your own focus and knowing yourself, right? And because if you know yourself really well, it's not like then you can just go faster. It's like you know yourself because a long race will have all kinds of obstacles, and based on yourself, who you are and your strengths and weaknesses, then you will handle the 15-30 different things that come up more appropriately. You'll have appropriate response to riding into the wind, or how hard to go, and when you start feeling sick, slow down. And when somebody passes you, to not try to go with them because it's too fast. And learning to be okay with taking a break for a second, and that you actually do better to write the numbers down. It's a car. Of where the turns are and stuff, and you don't like aero bars, or you do, and you like the old bike. It just goes on and on. You learn all about yourself while doing a long event, and you don't even have to say, oh, I'm a better person because I did it faster. You could be a better person and learn more about yourself because you had more fun than last time, even though you went slower. So, and then you could ask yourself, when you had a really good time, what was it that was different? I've done Gravel Locos twice, and in a weird way, the second time was more fun, even though I was way slower, because I had to go lay down in a ditch for like half an hour twice. Because it about freaking killed me. And then I'm like, this is what I paid for, to push myself. You don't know who you are until you push yourself to your edge. Then there's a whole lot of unknown of your abilities and like how you handle things until you get to your, explore all the corners of your abilities. And I learned a lot about myself that day, and yeah, so I really like adventures. Even more so, and I think it comes from like a life already lived being really competitive, and for me, and doing really good in some sports, and being the winner or the best in my age group in some things, and then being terrible in other things. I find that I actually, when I suck at something, I have this personality quirk where I think I should not suck at that. And then instead of being demoralized, I'm like, oh, cool, I got something to work on, right? When I realized how bad I was at Ironman when I first started, I was like, I should not be this bad at Ironman. And I was like, well, cool. And trail running too, ultra marathoning. I was like, I've got something to work on for a while to improve. So my next year, 3 years, 5 years, is planned out. So I'm going to be working on that thing, and I like it. Okay, let's get back on this bike, and then we'll stop at the gas station. Maybe drink a cold drink. Oh yeah, so reframing. You know, this ride went yesterday. This was I'm going to finish this ride today before noon, before it gets too hot. And then today, this ride has turned into, gradually devolved into, this might be my until the middle of Saturday afternoon event. This might be what I'm doing until the middle of the afternoon, because I need to go slow because of the heat, because the cloud cover did not move in anywhere near as much as I thought it was going to. I mean, it looks nice, but that is hot, you know, and you only get the cloud over you if you're lucky. And I just did 4, 5, 6 miles on that stretch of road over there with almost no cloud cover. Hey, that freaking cooked me. Okay, let's go. All right. I just got a fountain drink and a Snickers bar and ate it in there. It's air conditioned in there. Wow, it is so nice. And I noticed coming back to this table, it says Blick 182. So stay in school, kids. It's Blink 182. And funny fact, I used to live in their same neighborhood. I lived in Poway, and in the late 90s. And they had just gotten famous and moved out of Poway. And my best friend that lives in San Diego used to hang out in Blink 182's garage when they were a band just trying to make it, and would listen to them play. And that's a small world. How about that? Blink 182 is a great band. But anyway, no refills. The guy was like really cool. I was like, do I get free refills on this? And he's like, well, I'd have to charge you. And so what I did is I just got a ton of ice and with my drink, and I'm gonna put it in here, 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 and then you see the mist coming maybe, and that'll tide me over for the rest of my ride. But anyway, all right, this is one of my favorite things to do on a gravel bike, is you can actually go explore construction sites, like roads being built. You cannot do that on a road bike. And you feel like a little kid on your BMX bike. It is the best. And I think it really fills out a nice part of your brain, that explorer feeling, like doing a little bit of artistic riding. You're trying to figure things out. Feel like you've actually accomplished something, gone and checked out something new, like learned something. It's nice. So this will be paved soon, but I noticed that there's a bunch of dirt road offshoots coming off of this. We're getting really, really close to the mountain bike range. It's just that way. We're really, really close. So at some point it might push through, which would be really cool. All right, be right back. All right, we're almost done. 3 hours and 40 minutes. Got about 10 minutes left, maybe 12. And I am wiped out. And it made me think, once a ride becomes a heat training ride, because the heat's so oppressive. Yeah, it's 100.7 on my bike computer. And we just came out of the woods, so this is hot. Then everything else goes out the window as far as effort like intervals or pace. What's your average pace? What's your mileage? It's basically just time and being careful. This can get dangerous. Pushing my sunglasses up there. But yeah, like, see how I got a tailwind, so I can coast on these little slight downhills. I try to cool back down. My ice water melted so fast. But it did make me feel better. It took the edge off of it, where you could see where the guys like Christian Blumenfeld and the other guys are using core temperature now. Everything just changed, just when you think it's done. Zone 2. No, now it's heat training. Wait, no, now it's core temperature devices. No, it's ketones. I've been doing this sport since 2002, maybe. Ultra endurance. I wasn't ultra at first, but working my way up a few years. And I've seen so much stuff come and go. Vegan. I was vegan, raw vegan for 9 months. And I got really fast. That was my fastest year. And then I ran out of energy. Yeah, so what did I learn today? Let's see. Hopefully, because I figured out how to pull in audio or video in just as clips and edit it. I'm in a way better mood about recording stuff because I could just record short stuff like this. You just scared the crap out of me. And then editing video is actually kind of fun. You know what's not fun is editing audio. It's just not fun. And editing video, because it's fun, I'll do it. Wow, look how much room that person gave me. Thank you. That was out of the ordinary. I got a little strip like this. I don't mind so much riding off to the right, as long as I still got it. But only on a gravel bike, where I'm not worried about getting a flat. But then I edit the video. Like I said, it's fun. And then, it's interesting. Because it's been edited. And then I can take the video and drop it right into the audio software, and it's already edited. I don't have to edit the audio. I don't have to sit there and edit sound waves. We just came into town, and the urban heat island effect is in effect. Wow. And then the content's in two places. People learned a while back, you gotta have your podcast also up on YouTube. Because YouTube is owned by Google. And people really enjoy watching that kind of stuff. They find out about you there. So now I'm killing two birds with one stone. So that's kind of what I learned today. But also I got a battery that might be bad. The batteries are a little bit inexpensive, so it's not the worst. Like I said, look, we've come full circle. It's not the worst. All right, I got a traffic circle to negotiate. We'll catch back up after I have a IPA and jump in the pool. Be right back. Look at this BS. Right as I finish, look at the rain's coming in. God dang it, dude. I could have used that. It's over 100 on the bike computer, and did 53 miles. 53.67, but who's counting? And Emily's on the treadmill indoors, so I'm gonna go bang on the window and scare the crap out of her. And that's how girls know that boys love them, is they harass the crap out of them on the playground. He threw sand at me. Yeah, he likes you. It's a good lesson I've figured out with guys. I tell people this all the time. It's so funny. Watch for this. If guys don't like somebody, they don't talk to them. If guys like guys, you know, I'm talking about like just dudes. If guys like each other, they tease each other. That's how they show affection. I don't think they know how to show affection, so they just do it by teasing each other. And then if a guy doesn't like you, he won't bother talking to you. So if a guy comes up behind you, scares the crap out of you, oh, we'll take that out. When I jump out of a closet and scream, ah, attacker, murder at Emily, and she screams and then drops everything and then gets all mad, it's because I love her. Oh my gosh. Okay, be right back. All right, we're in the pool. Sorry, there's grass clippings in it, but if it's been really hot, a lot of times I like to jump in, one, to rinse off fast because I have allergies really bad, and if I get pollen on me, I'll start, as soon as I stop, I have to rinse off, or else I'll scratching, and then I'll scratch myself so much that I'll bleed and cut myself with my fingernails. It's crazy. So I jump in to rinse to mostly to get the pollen off, and then cycling kit and some of the cycling accoutrement is kind of expensive. So like your jersey and your shorts and whatever. So I'll actually soak down a little bit in my kit, and then I'll be able to wear it twice without having and that's my max, at most twice. And I soak the bottom bracket and get my face soap and my armpits. That's pretty much it. And then the rinse off and then let it dry, hanging on something. And then I can wear the kit twice. And then it saves it from the laundry, and my kit lasts a long, long time because machine wash is really hard on stuff. A lot of people do this. If you're thinking I'm sounding weird, you don't know. A lot of people hop in the shower after a ride or a run and just shower in whatever they were wearing, just to get that stuff somewhat clean. And then also to get dirt off of you as fast as possible. It helps with not getting zits and stuff too. And not getting ingrown hairs and stuff down under. And what I always call your bottom bracket. But anyway, this is a hazy little thing. Sierra Nevada. Hazy little thing, IPA. This is the camera. And then I've got a strap around my neck. A real lightweight chest strap. Because I'm not mountain biking, so it doesn't need to be super secure. And then, or it doesn't need to be like locked down. And yeah, I remembered I had my knife on me. And look at that. I forgot I had it. It's been clipped on the whole time. That's how nice and relatively lightweight. And I've already rinsed it off, so you can just do this. Do all this stuff. And I'll rinse off my helmet. Oh, crap. And then soap up my gloves a little bit so they don't stink. And then just, yeah, hang everything to dry. And this is nice. Really, really nice. I'll sit here and look at my numbers and think about what I'm going to do next with the nice pool. It's this deep if I sit on my knees like that. So I've got like this chest height little table to, yeah, look at stuff. And I'll get on the phone and there's your Ultra Swim shampoo, and look at some of the videos that I shot and see if someone should go up to Instagram. I've posted 2 so far, the snake and the 100-degree video shot, but there was something else. What was it? Oh, I remember now. The down by the Navasota River. That little bit. I like posting that because that's lots of wildlife and nature kind of stuff. Anyway, so yeah, 52, 53, 54 miles, something like that. Really hot. Just under 4 hours. 3 stops to cool down. And I am cooked. And I got an IPA and start hydrating and eat pasta with pesto. So it's got some healthy oils in it. And think about, in my mind, running 10 miles tomorrow. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. My legs started cramping. My left leg started cramping up a little bit towards the end of the ride. And that was it. Nice little camera. Okay. Oh yeah, so the chest strap, I have to wear it sideways like that. It clips into like a GoPro strap because it's so long. It's meant to kind of hold like a phone. But then if I do that, then it's too low or something, and then it just films my knees or the back of the handlebars. So to get it up, I have it on this sideways mount thing that screws in right there. No. All right, bye. See you next episode. Everybody stay safe out there. Keep the whatever up and something else down. I'm getting hot. Let's drink some beer. Bye.